Don't let them see me like this.
When you think about Shia LaBeouf, two people come to mind: Sam Witwicky or Stanley Yelnats. For the masses, it's memories of a talented artist and actor who's run into some bad luck and misfortune. Or maybe you dug deeper, stumbling upon headlines of alleged abuse, apologies, and scandals. All would be correct. Shia's life has been coated with controversy, as with most child stars. Yet, Shia's past holds more mysteries than people realize. Stories littered with plagiarism, performance art, and arrests. Including one story you've never heard of. One of the most iconic actors of Hollywood, and my generation's childhood, has found himself on the edge of the abyss. Shia LaBeouf can be seen as one of the most creative and talented actors of our time, providing vivid memories to children and adults through his acting ability and seemingly authentic self.
We're a couple of old-timers. Hello, my man. Looks like we'll be having these 2 old cases of beer today.
You guys got some ID?
You bet.
Despite his success as an actor and creator, Shia's personal life has matured into a series of unpredictable and unacceptable behaviors. Yet, he evidently receives new roles, as if he's permanently secured his name in Hollywood or any other creative fields. Hollywood actors are not invulnerable, but hold an uncanny ability, or privilege, to escape accountability when it suits them. The star of famous blockbuster action movies, music videos, and original projects, with more to possibly come, now faces a multitude of highly publicized legal issues, threatening the decorated career he's built. At this point, it's not far off to believe charges levied against him, if any, will be minimized. I would argue appearances on celebrity podcasts and favorable media tours only blur the line between fact and fiction. On the surface, Shia has acknowledged his stormy past, and for all intents and purposes, has begun a new chapter of his life as a caring father and loving husband. That being said, there is one story Shia LaBeouf doesn't want being told. Shia was born in 1986 in Los Angeles, California, to parents Shayna Sade and Jeffrey LaBeouf. He has described his own upbringing as a, quote, hippie lifestyle. Pretty weird people, but they loved me, and I loved them. Shayna supported her family by selling fabrics and brooches, while Jeffrey was a war veteran with 3 tours in Vietnam. It's safe to say he came back to the States a changed man, having to make ends meet by working as a professional clown. One of Shia's earliest memories is dressing up with his father in 1988 and shilling for the family's pushcart company. Shia wasn't embarrassed because in these moments he found peace, away from his parents' fights regarding financial stability. Jeffrey had been leading a not-so-secret double life. Behind the clown makeup was a convicted sex offender and drug addict. In an interview featuring Jeffrey LaBeouf, he admitted to threatening Shia when he was a child, but he never hit him, in the face at least. As Shia once put it, he was, quote, tough as nails. At 3 years old, Shia's parents divorced, leaving Shia with his mother in Echo Park, a poverty-stricken district of Los Angeles. Shia's mother was left to raise her only child, while Shia's father spent his time in rehabilitation centers to seek help for his struggles with addiction. However, Jeffrey's lawless behavior and the environment of Echo Park molded Shia's outlook on life. One specific instance of overwhelming trauma occurred when Shia allegedly heard his mother being sexually assaulted in their home. He explains how he froze and wasn't able to act. Thankfully, his mother and a neighbor with a crossbow were able to fend off the attacker. From the start, Shia's childhood was riddled with traumatic events that no child should ever have to experience. As an escape, he would perform stand-up comedy, mostly mimicking his father in front of family members and small audiences in order to earn a laugh.
Oh, well, see, I used to like perform at the Ice House and stuff.
Yeah, out in Pasadena.
Right, and they got alcohol there, so I couldn't perform there unless the alcohol was away. So you'd be sitting there with all these drunk people, and they really don't give a crap about some kid performing.
Yeah.
They just want their alcohol. They don't care what you're seeing.
Yeah.
So you had to come out there and like shock value. You had to be up there like, you know, oh, the first time I orgasmed, confetti shot out of my penis, and it was like a big, there was a circus in my pubic area, you know, and that would get their attention. Like, oh, this kid is, you know.
This is when you're 11?
Yeah, like
'Cause
11, 12.
I didn't have sex till I was like 14. That's
Yeah.
great.
As he got older, around the age of 10, Shia stayed with his father more often and recalled a particular memory when he was given weed. Shia's transparency of his early life has led to even more egregious revelations, such as the time where his father pointed a gun at him during a Vietnam War flashback. At some point, Shia's uncle was going to step in and adopt Shia, as his parents could not afford to raise him. His disruptive and chaotic home life led to a more distressing social life. Shia's behavior in school began to rival his father's antics as fights would break out in the halls. Only Shia truly knows what he was doing when he was running around as a kid, therefore we can only go off what's officially documented. An arrest in 1996 for stealing a pair of Nike Cortez sneakers, as well as an arrest in 1998 for stealing a Game Boy. Fortunately, Shia had an epiphany. He didn't want to end up like his father, addicted to drugs and incarcerated. After meeting a child actor who seemed to have everything, Shia decided that that was the route he was going to take to support himself and his family. Shia's dreams of becoming an actor would come true after trying to find an agent through Yellow Pages. One individual in particular knew Shia was a child on the phone, but presumably saw some initiative. Shia's way out of Echo Park was clear, and the rest was history. Shia's path to support his family led him to secure the role of Louis Stevens on the old Disney Channel sitcom, Even Stevens. His father acted as an on-set guardian, since Shia was just 14 at the time, and over the next several years, his talents would be fully discovered, earning him roles in critically acclaimed movies such as Holes and Constantine. Unfortunately, his old life still lingered behind him. In 2007, Shia spent 2 days in jail for trying to stab his neighbor after an altercation, and the same year he was arrested in a Chicago Walgreens after refusing a security guard's commands. He was cited for misdemeanor criminal trespassing, but all charges were eventually dropped. 2007 wasn't entirely a bad year for Shia, if you take into account the massive popularity garnered by his newest role at the time, Sam Witwicky in Transformers.
Well, there's a couple new additions in the car. Like, I just put in that light there, and that disco ball. So the light reflects off the disco ball.
At just 21 years old, Shia had become a serious actor and the breadwinner of the family, turning seemingly inescapable poverty into generational wealth. Besides acting, Shia tried his hand at directing films and music videos. His earliest work included Let's Love Hate and I Never Knew You by American rapper Cage, as well as Kid Cudi's song Marijuana, released in 2010. Another Shia piece most people are unaware of is the Icelandic music video Fjögur Piano, where he appeared in silence and completely nude, portraying a couple locked in a cycle of addiction. However, the most viral of his side projects being the famous 2015 song and theatrical performance created by musician Rob Cantor, titled Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf. Whether or not Rob and Shia explicitly thought of this as performance art or a marketing stunt, it didn't matter. The song did its job, now sitting at 81 million views since its inception, because of its prevalence in meme culture. At his core, Shia is best described as a restless creator who is infatuated with pushing the envelope of whatever he deems worthy, constantly taking on projects that seem out of his wheelhouse, only to prove that he can do it all. Or so it seems. In a sense, Shia was satisfied with his acting and music for now. because at some point he decided it was time to sell graphic novels and produce short films. However, Shia's new business venture led to scrutiny almost immediately. In 2013, Shia was criticized for plagiarizing his short film, HowardCantor.com, from comic Justin M. Damiano by Dan Clowes. It was noted that the opening monologue for the short and comic were absolutely identical. LaBeouf later apologized several times on Twitter and claimed he was just inspired by Dan Clowes, that he had been, quote, lost in the creative process. Some even criticized his apology. In perhaps the most foolish or funny attempt at trolling, Shia's apology was plagiarized from a Yahoo Answers post. This plagiarism had a domino effect on his earlier work, as his past projects began to catch heat. News outlets reported that his novels, Let's Fucking Party, and Stale and Mate had been plagiarized as well, from Benoit Dutour's The Little Girl and the Cigarette and Charles Bukowski's Assault. In response, LaBeouf tweeted his next project, titled Daniel Boring, a sarcastic reference to David Boring, which was another comic made by Dan Clowes. In typical Shia fashion, he also paid skywriters to leave an apology to Dan Clowes over the LA skyline. Knowing Shia's character, this seems to be more of an ironic taunt rather than a genuine apology. Shia may have been laughing, but Clowes' attorney, Michael Kump, sent a cease and desist letter to LaBeouf's attorney, which LaBeouf gladly posted on Twitter. It seems you can't win against someone who has nothing to lose. Only Shia had everything to lose. The world he built for himself outside of Echo Park was beginning to collapse. Shia's creative endeavors were so closely tied to his identity that when he was exposed as a fraud, people began to question who he was as a person. This sarcastic, top-of-the-world attitude would only make things worse for him. The same year his work was confirmed as plagiarism, Shia was fired from his big Broadway debut in Orphans. Shia cited, quote, creative differences with Alec Baldwin as the reason for him leaving the play. That's the Hollywood way of saying, shit got real. A year later, in June of 2014, Shia was arrested in New York City's Studio 54 Theater and charged with disorderly conduct, harassment, and criminal trespass. He had apparently been apprehended after becoming intoxicated and lighting a cigarette in the theater showing the musical Cabaret. Shia pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct in order for the other charges to be dropped. Surprisingly, he voluntarily sought outpatient treatment for his alcoholism, which he blamed for his erratic behavior. At least it was a step in the right direction. During this troubled time, he also found love. While filming for his upcoming film, Nymphomaniac, Shia met and began dating actress Mia Goth. Of course, nothing can ever be normal, as in some sort of performance arts stunt, Shia and Mia got married in Las Vegas, which was officiated by an Elvis Presley impersonator. They were never legally confirmed as married to one another, but did confirm their nuptials on the Ellen DeGeneres show, if that means anything. At this point, Shia's acting gave him a creative itch that performance art could only scratch. Shia began to dive deeper into becoming an artist rather than just hone his craft as an actor. At the Berlin Film Festival, for his latest film Nymphomaniac, Shia RP walked down the red carpet like an NPC with a paper bag over his head with the words, "I am not famous anymore," written on it. Many people chalk this up to one of two things: Shia stopping the treatment of his alcohol abuse, or he was merely desperate for attention. I actually believe he was plagiarizing someone else's paper bag. In any event, the paper bag was found out to be an act, just one part of a larger project named #I Am Sorry. I Am Sorry was a performance art scheme anchored by two collaborators, British artist Luke Turner and Finnish artist Nastia Ranko. In their eyes, they had just created the world's most iconic and artistic trio, spearheaded by none other than Shia LaBeouf. Since their first project, #I Am Sorry, this trio has birthed a handful of high-profile performance art projects because they can. hell, why not? They have an endless source of creativity and the budget of a Hollywood child prodigy. What could go wrong? 2 days after the Berlin Film Festival stunt, the trio decided to add to their I Am Sorry art piece by performing at a Los Angeles gallery. Shia, dressed in a tuxedo, adorned with the all-too-familiar paper bag, sat alone in a room for 6 days, where he silently cried and allowed visitors, one at a time, to choose an item from a table to use or give to him. A whip, Hershey Kisses, pliers. This assortment of tools alone pretty much guaranteed the outcome of this event. Something was bound to go wrong at some point, and of course it did. According to the trio, Shia was sexually assaulted by an unknown woman during his performance. She had entered the room with the whip, and after hitting Shia's legs a dozen or so times, proceeded to take off his clothes and rape him. Shia himself noted that her boyfriend stood outside the room while this took place. Although Turner and Ronco clarified that they prevented the assault from occurring, the woman was never identified nor questioned. She quite literally just walked away. The trio wasn't going to let sexual assault stop them on their quest to create the ultimate performance. That's why, a year later, in 2015, they delivered on their quota for performance art, dishing out 4 new notorious projects. Hashtag Follow My Heart, hashtag All My Movies, hashtag Touch My Soul, and hashtag Introductions. Follow My Heart was a project in which Shia transmitted his own heartbeat online for 6 days. There was also a website that streamed a real-time graphic of his heart. Apparently, this was supposed to be a, quote, reminder of our collective humanity. All My Movies, where Shia sat down for 3 days straight and watched all of his movies. Touch My Soul, in which the trio called random people and got their, quote, souls touched.
Hi, you've reached LaBeouf, Ronco, and Turner. Can you touch my soul?
You've got millions of people following you. Why don't you start a trend like trying to aid other people? There's like loads of people in the world struggling, loads of scenarios you can help with where people need aid.
Do you think people need to be listened to?
Of course they do.
So what's going on here?
You're listening to me?
Have a good day.
Lastly, in Introductions, LaBeouf, Ronco, and Turner, as well as Central St. Martin's fine art students, comprised a series of monologues performed by Shia in front of a green screen. This project should be the most recognizable, being that one specific segment became the most searched GIF of 2015.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it!
There are some other strange parts from Introductions that I'm surprised didn't get as much love. In 2016, the trio grew a bit bolder by starting hashtag Take Me Anywhere, a month-long journey where they could post their GPS coordinates and wait for a stranger to pick them up. The premise being, this stranger can quite literally take them anywhere. Their adventure began in Colorado, continued north through Canada, and eventually ended in Alaska. I have a sneaking suspicion this project was more of a spiritual journey. They found themselves, mastered their mind, and returned ready to conquer the world. Ultimately, all of these projects would pale in comparison to Shia's biggest performance art project yet. He Will Not Divide Us started on January 20th, 2017. These words, marked on the Museum of the Moving Image in New York, were in reference to Donald Trump winning the 2016 election, and were planned to stay there until the end of his presidency. This project was frequented by other celebrities as well as everyone's favorite Nepo baby. In addition to wannabe hipster college students and people with no jobs showing up to the event, 4chan trolls, white supremacists, and neo-Nazis decided it would be funny to pay the camera a visit. Shia wasn't having any of it. An unknown man can be heard saying 1488 to the camera, but is immediately set upon by Shia himself.
He will never divide us! He will not divide us! We must secure the existence of the white people on He will not divide us! 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 will not divide us. He 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 will not divide us.
This altercation increased in severity, with New York City police stepping in to apprehend Shia, but this did not stop the project. As a result of the 4chan trolling and neo-Nazi crowd, the project was moved to Albuquerque, intended as, quote, a safer location. Shortly thereafter, a man flashed a handgun on camera while saying "fuck Trump" and his supporters. A couple of days later, a masked individual spray-painted the camera, which ended the fun in Albuquerque. The trio decided to move their art again. This time, their message was placed on a flag and live-streamed from an undisclosed location. But they forgot to account for the terminally online. 4chan gremlins were able to narrow down the location of the flag in under 2 days by factoring together time zones, flight patterns, and mapped stars. The location of the flag was determined to be in Tennessee, and not before long, a user posted himself driving in the area near the supposed flag, honking their horn until the audio was picked up on the live stream. Upon finding the flag, the trolls replaced it with Trump's infamous MAGA hat and a Pepe the Frog shirt. Shia had finally run into people who seemed just as determined as him, so it was time to think outside the box and move the project to the Foundation for Art and Creative Technology in Liverpool, UK. Only the trio still couldn't anticipate the tenacity of 4chan goblins. The location of the flag was immediately found and posted to the boards. People even climbed the roof of the building to take pictures with it. Enthusiastic vandals tried using drones attached with makeshift weaponry or paint bombs to somehow take down the flag or deface it, but police stepped in and had the flag removed due to the increase in illegal trespassing. Artists, especially Shia LaBeouf, aren't known for giving up. If they have a message, you bet they're going to spread it. For the 4th time, the flag was moved to the LaBeouf Unique in Nantes, France. All was quiet until a mysterious video was uploaded to YouTube. The attack looks unsuccessful, but for the sake of pride, the flag was moved for a 5th time to the Muzeum Sztuki in Lodz, Poland. The message only stayed in Poland for a few months before being moved back to the LaBeouf in France, where it remained until Joe Biden was inaugurated President of the United States in 2021. Donald Trump was no longer president, so Shia's message was obsolete. Many people still consider Shia's performance art to be influential in the contemporary art world, but there's no doubt it was marked by controversy. There are plenty of critics who believe it was all a publicity stunt or a misguided attempt to gain attention, while his fans see them as important messaging with profound meanings. Unfortunately for Shia, his performance art career faded away as other projects, along with even more controversies, consumed his time. The people who tolerated Shia slowly abandoned him when it became clear he couldn't stay out of trouble with the law. For instance, the same year He Will Not Divide Us was released, and filming had begun for his new film, The Peanut Butter Falcon, Shia was facing serious charges in Georgia for disorderly conduct. This particular incident began with Shia walking up to a group of people at 4 a.m. in downtown Savannah, Georgia, and asking for a cigarette. He became agitated and disorderly when one wasn't provided, and decided to dip. So, Shia hit a light jog back to his hotel, trusting in the fact that if he was out of sight, he'd be out of mind. It's too bad that officers immediately found and apprehended him, leading to explicit body cam footage.
You're a alright, brother, alright? Ain't making your situation no better. Shut the alright, brother. Alright. Don't have you. Don't touch it. I'm an American. I pay my taxes. I work for my in the National Guard. You're a I appreciate it. Yeah, you owe me to my country. How long were you in the National Guard for what? Arrest me for what? You look cute. Yo, I kissed you and I just let you have it. I appreciate your love. Yeah, shut up. Ooh. I I would just eat you, dog.
Shia's career took a massive hit once the footage was obtained by media outlets, as he can be seen and heard yelling profanities and racial remarks. After the ordeal, Shia blamed his behavior on alcohol addiction, but pleaded no contest to the charge of disorderly conduct in October of 2017. Interestingly enough, he was found guilty of obstruction, but not guilty of public intoxication. Shia was sentenced to a 1-year probation, a $1,000 fine, and mandatory therapy to manage his anger and substance abuse. He had all the resources and means to get his act together, even claiming the officers who arrested him in Georgia, quote, changed his life. Apparently, to some degree, the officers even inspired him to produce Honey Boy, a film in which Shia portrayed his own, quote, abusive father. A year later after Honey Boy's release, in 2019, Shia's anger once again got the best of him. According to the complaint filed, Shia used, quote, force and violence on a stranger in Los Angeles, driving off with their expensive hat. One can only imagine what was going on in Shia's mind, but he probably didn't think he'd be criminally charged with misdemeanor battery and petty theft. He was ordered into a diversion program, with all charges possibly dropped if LaBeouf could complete the program within a year. For everything that's happened, Shia was given yet another chance. He's made mistakes, but so does everyone, right? Just before 2020 ended, British musician FKA Twigs, who had met Shia on the set of Honey Boy and dated him, issued a lawsuit against the actor for sexual battery, assault, and infliction of emotional distress.
But I would really doubt myself, you know, especially when I'd like wake up and he'd be like, you were lying there with your eyes open, planning to leave me. And I'd be like, I literally was asleep. But then he would like only want me to sleep naked because he said if I didn't, then I was keeping myself from him. He was threatening to crash the car unless I said I loved him, and ended up basically strangling me in public at a gas station, and nobody did anything.
Shia was quick to immediately deny all allegations, while major companies like Netflix were quick to drop him from their awards campaign. In 2022, on fellow actor and co-star Jon Bernthal's podcast, Real Ones, Shia finally admitted he had, quote, hurt that woman, adding, I was a pleasure-seeking, selfish, self-centered, dishonest, inconsiderate, fearful human being. This episode broke the internet, garnering millions of views in a matter of days. Bernthal would then go on the Joe Rogan Experience to further talk about the subject matter.
You know, that really hurt people, and I felt fucking terrible about that, man.
Did you wish you hadn't done it?
No, because after talking to him and then going around and talking to women who have been victims themselves, talking to, you know, this one woman specifically who we were gonna have on, but she had health issues and couldn't. But you know what I've found is so many people have reached out who said, like, I was in that place, like I was in that place where he was. I was in that place where I was, whether I was abusive or not abusive, I was getting there, and the drugs and the alcohol were getting the better of me.
Is he a fallible human with a troubling past that wears his heart on his sleeve and admits fault? Or does he play the victim card at any chance he can get without taking any accountability? According to FKA Twigs, Shia bragged about driving around LA killing stray dogs in order to get into his role for tax collector. His manic behavior allegedly continued to the point where Twigs was fearful of her life, desperately leaving a paper trail of evidence in the event Shia would harm her. I don't see Bernthal asking him about any of this. Although his podcast won over the hearts of the Shia doubters and affirmed the bias of Shia lovers, it is loaded with contradictions. He states he doesn't want this to be a pity party.
I didn't actually understand what love was. You know, I didn't know what friendship was. I'm not trying to do a pity party thing.
Which is exactly what it turned out to be. Within the first few minutes, he claims he doesn't see a lot of men taking accountability in the Me Too movement.
And when I look at this Me Too environment, there's not a whole lot of dudes that are taking accountability. You know, I fucked up bad, like crash and burn type shit, hurt a lot of people.
When the allegations came out against him, he specifically denied every point made against him. In an apparent period of self-reflection during this podcast, he says, "I put hands on that woman."
My acting wasn't collaborative. It was competitive. It was a sport. And my life was this way. And this is what created the insecurity and the jealousy that put hands on this woman.
But refuses to name any victims throughout the entire 2-hour interview. Sure, it may cover him legally, but it's not exactly accountability. He then states he cheated on every partner he's ever been with.
I would hurt people just out of straight selfishness. No, like, there's no intellectual facet to it. Just the fact that, you know, the fact that I cheated on every woman I'd ever been with.
But then walks it back 10 minutes later when he says, "If I was with you, you were the one."
For me, and I don't know if you felt this way, but every woman was the one for me. There was never a two. If you liked me, you were the one. And that had to do with my insecurity and my fear. Like, I didn't have there was no 2 or 3, or I was just dating like frivolously. It was always like this grand hair climbing up the super emotional, super romantic, super this fierce romance, you know, that I was searching for. Desperate little boy shit.
Later in the interview, Shia discusses how his dad never actually abused him, yet Honey Boy was created solely as a hit piece to vilify his own father.
I want to hit my dad up. Now here's a man who I done vilified on a grand scale. I put all this shit in the street, you know? And used him, juiced my dad as like, this is the reason I'm fucking foul out here. You know, I'm come from this wayward upbringing, and, you know, my dad is the reason I'm such a fuck up. You know, he's a biker and a wild man and a criminal and a da-da-da and abusive and I wrote this narrative, which was just fucking nonsense. My dad was so loving to me my whole life. Fractured, sure. Crooked, sure. Like, wonky for sure. But never was not loving. Never was not there. He was always there. He was always there. And I done a world press tour about how fucked he was as a man. And I turned the knob up on certain shit that wasn't real. My dad never hit me. Never. He spanked me once. One time.
In a separate interview meant to hype up his upcoming film, Padre Pio, he refuses to don the method actor title and conveniently rebrands it as immersive acting.
I don't identify with that school of thought, really. I don't really know what I do or where it comes from or how it happens. I know that I feel a whole lot. I got a big heart. I don't know if I'm a method guy.
Yeah.
And I think some of that stuff's ridiculous.
So like kind of the staying in character, that's sort of the cliche.
I like to be immersive.
Yeah.
I like all immersive experience, not just acting. It's probably why I like Catholicism as well. I like all immersion. I like being I like adventure. And that requires like full immersion. So I would consider myself an immersive actor, but method acting has like a bad smell to it.
He's aware of the negative connotations with method, yet has displayed the same level of narcissism for method acting on film sets throughout his entire career. All of this leads me to believe that this is not as genuine as people give it credit for, but rather a contrived redemption arc. The world had now heard of Shia's aggressiveness, but not to disparage FKA's allegations, this was a fragment of a bigger picture. If you're able to follow Shia's insane story, then it shouldn't come as a surprise that he was part of a gang. This man is, or was, in a Los Angeles-based Hispanic street gang named Harpies 13. In his own words, he was, quote, jumped into the gang outside in a parking lot as a sort of gang initiation rite. Although he doesn't get into specifics of the gang, it's not hard to put it together. It's no secret that Shia LaBeouf is a method actor, going to extreme lengths in order to put himself into the mind of his characters. Yes, it's cringe. Yes, it puts other people at risk. And no, he doesn't care. This includes self-mutilation and not showering for months to simulate life during World War II in Fury. He even shaved his head, which is funny because he doesn't seem to be experiencing hair loss. Which is why today's video is sponsored by Keeps. Keeps is a subscription service that helps men keep their hair. They offer clinically proven treatments that help combat the symptoms of hair loss. Best of all of Keep's treatment plans are personalized, tailored to fit your needs, and they ship right to your doorstep. You don't even have to leave your house. 2 out of 3 guys will experience hair loss before the age of 35, but have no fear, Keeps has you covered. Keeps offers clinically proven, research-backed treatments that stop hair loss and improve hair growth. Every Keeps treatment plan comes with 1 year of unlimited messaging. This way you can connect with your medical provider about anything, anytime. In addition to clinically proven treatments, Keeps has an award-winning, all-natural thickening shampoo and conditioner system. You can also subscribe to Keeps and get refill reminders so you never run low on the products you need to take the best care of your hair. Hair loss stops with Keeps. To get a special offer, go to keeps.com/Philion. That's KEEPS.com/Philion, or just click the link down below. And thank you to Keeps for sponsoring this video. In preparation for Shia's film, Tax Collector, a movie that was easily forgotten about, he thought it best to visit old neighborhoods in Echo Park to draw inspiration from the Latino community. Doing so, he also tattooed his entire torso with Harpies 13 imagery, his character's name, Creeper. The hand signal of 2 fingers pointing at each other creates the letter H for Harpy, and here's a picture of Shia representing the Harpies with fellow alleged members. Shia also has a cryptic face tattoo on his temple, 3 dots and 2 lines. This is Aztec numerology for the number 13, with each line representing 5 and a dot as 1. This adds up to 13. Lastly, the hands on his stomach are Mickey Mouse's gloves, indicating his Disney Channel past. Is this method acting, or is Shia blurring the lines of his actual criminal affiliation? It's convenient to say it's for a movie. I just can't get behind the notion that the Harpies are okay with some celebrity taking their culture and using it as an art piece for his self-gain. It's common knowledge that tattoos are earned, not given. If Shia didn't lose his mind before, he's certainly lost it now.
The whole reason that shit started up was I was piggybacking his knowledge of how to be a service for my ego. SLAUSON started with a conversation with me and him, me trying to, I was trying to join a gang. I was I was hanging out with a bunch of Harpies members and was like fully jumped in and was a part of a gang and trying to talk to him about shit. He's looking at me like, bro, you don't know fuck, you got a bunch of tattoos and like, okay, right, you got jumped in the park, you don't know anything about this shit,
A newborn daughter, a luxury lifestyle, a stellar career, albeit the allegations against him. Why would Shia ever join a gang? He may have actually been a part of this gang for longer than presumed. As a youth, Shia grew up in gang territory and has admitted to committing various crimes. It would come as a total surprise to learn Shia had been in contact with gang members since his childhood in Echo Park, but it's safe to say that when his acting career took off, so did he. Since Shia is now a father, he may straighten himself out, stay sober, and find happiness again. Or he's too far gone, well past the fine line that separates dedication and insanity.
Started theater school. It's called the SLAUSON Recreation Center Theater School. You don't have to be an actor. You don't have to ever have thought about being an actor. You do, however, have to have a story that you're willing to share. All I ask of you is that you show up and stay for 1 hour. If you don't like it, leave. If you do like it, I'll be there next Saturday. I'll be there every Saturday at 9 a.m. building shit with whoever shows up. I'm trying to change the world. If you are too, let's get it. Bang.
We did, and then they took us down to the SLAUSON Rec Center, said, hey, you can come in here for free if you can be down here every Saturday and run this class. So I told Bobby. Bobby told his acting teacher, Shelly, and then we all rolled down there and met Nicole, who runs the rec center, and we started having this sort of strange experiment of like this devised theater program that I had read in some book, because I never went to theater school neither. So we took this moment workbook, went down to the SLAUSON Rec Center. I put a video up on my Twitter. 250 people showed up and just started running class every Saturday. That was 10 months ago.
SLAUSON Rec, the story that Shia LaBeouf doesn't want anyone knowing. Shia's hostility had exacerbated to the point of him allegedly assaulting and berating complete strangers, many of whom sacrificed their time to learn from him. As 2018 kicked off, Shia, along with actor Bobby Soto, started an experimental and unorthodox theater group named SLAUSON Rec, located in a poor neighborhood of Los Angeles. The group was roughly 100 to 200 individuals, with varying degrees of theatrical talent, hailing from all over the United States. Most of the people have never acted in their life. In fact, they were simply fans of Shia and didn't want to miss the opportunity to learn from him. A free 6-hour seminar every weekend from an acting professional was simply not heard of because it didn't exist.
You know, things like this is why porn is interesting to me. Porn is interesting to me because they actually no matter what's going on with the acting part, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, they're actually gonna you can't fake that.
The purpose of SLAUSON Rec was to teach those who were willing to learn the secrets of acting, theater, and emotion. Most of SLAUSON Rec's hard work culminated into a single live performance posted to YouTube on July 1st, 2019, known as The Sacred Spectacle, a performance designed to open your spirituality and make you feel some sort of way, an actor's way of letting all of their emotions and talent define them. On the surface, this may seem like just some Hollywood scene, or Shia giving back to the community. If only he didn't copy and paste the entire organization from an art school in North Carolina that operated from 1933 to 1957. Named Black Mountain College, which was quite literally the first experimental art school in the United States. Maybe Shia LaBeouf simply liked the aesthetics of the college, or perhaps he saw the underground success of the school and wanted to emulate that. One thing is for certain, he stole the branding. The logo is identical. According to my SLAUSON Rec source, he only admitted to plagiarizing the logo once he was called out during a session by an unknown student. Additionally, it seems to follow the same artistic ethos. SLAUSON Rec was marketed to be for anyone, an approximate 6-hour session, come-as-you-go type place. Yet this loose, free dynamic changed as Shia's bloodlust for passionate performance kicked in. For example, if you missed a class, Shia would know.
If you missed class, a bunch of people missed class this one week, and he pulled everybody outside that missed class, and he lined you up in a row, right? And he went to each person. Why did you miss class? The first person, they had like very valid excuse. Next person, why did you miss class? 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 You know, it's like, does it to 7, 8 people, and then he goes on to be like, you know, okay, and this one guy says, Shia, I'm not having fun anymore. This isn't fun anymore. It's so heartbreaking. I'm not having fun anymore. And he goes, you know what? This isn't about fun. You don't have fun, you go somewhere else. He goes, leave, and never come back. And he would do that to people. He would get in your face and go, leave, and never come back.
According to an inside source who participated at SLAUSON Rec, one individual was reprimanded by Shia for missing class due to a family member's funeral. If you were to miss any session at all, Shia would personally scold you or kick you out of SLAUSON Rec, because he could, all the while being late or missing sessions himself, because who doesn't love basking in hypocrisy? One individual who I did end up speaking with was Shelly Mitchell, a Los Angeles actress and acting teacher.
I don't know why they would come back, because Shia was getting so drilling into them. I'm like, why do you come back every week? You know, they began to be uncomfortable with what you're kind of asking about. And they just left. So everybody could have just left.
Yeah, it was that open forum dynamic.
Absolutely. So there are many, many people that way before any like of him walking out, they could feel that it was not for them, and they left.
As one of the main founders of SLAUSON Rec, and easily the most influential, Shia's power trip would be aimed towards anyone he deemed unworthy. Shia would hold abstract acting scenarios in what were called a moment. He or anyone else would step into the middle of the room and try to build some emotion. Anyone could join in the circle and add to the performance. During one particular moment, a young man joined Shia in the circle and began snapping his fingers. Shia wasn't having it and decided to allegedly assault the man, using his head to push the guy into the corner of the room while yelling, "Say I end," the phrase, which was the safe word, used to end a moment.
Shia was doing what's called a moment, right, where you step into the middle of a circle. It's very intimidating, right? You step into the middle of a circle of like 100 people, sometimes 200 people, and you say, "I begin." You would say, "I begin," and then you do something. So he says, "I begin," and he starts flapping his jacket around. So he's flapping his wings, and this kid, says, "I want to edit this," or whatever. And so he has Shia do it again, and he flaps his wings, and the kid comes in the circle, and he starts snapping, right? He starts snapping in his face. And people would do stuff like that all the time, to provoke some kind of anger or some kind of frustration, right? It was really annoying, it was really disruptive. So Shia takes it upon himself to turn around and put his head up against that kid's head, and then pile drive him all the way into the corner of the room, right? So like, he headbutts this kid all the way into the corner of the room, and he says, to end the scene, right? To end the scene, you have to go you have to say, "I end." And he goes, "Say I end! Say I end! Say I end!" He's just yelling in this kid's face with his head pressed against his forehead, and the whole room is just kind of like, just frozen.
I was described one experience where a student started snapping and it set Shia off and he like cornered him.
It did. Mm-hmm.
That happened?
Yep, that's on film.
How did you feel during that moment?
As a woman, I think it was a woman that was doing it. I can't remember if we're thinking about the same time. It was kind of early on. It was kind of the first yucky thing. I felt like very uncomfortable, and I felt somewhat responsible to soften the situation for all the participants, and at the same time I felt like you're dealing with an artist who he's not around non-actors. He's put himself in a position with fans, really. It's like an elite Olympic athlete saying, "Run with me," and you're like, whoa. And because so much of acting is emotion.
For a lot of reasons. He's not a big guy. He's not scary in that way. He's just insane. He's so crazy, and he would try and fight you at the drop of a hat. And he was gang affiliated.
I was told that Shia would try to fight people. Is that something familiar?
I never saw him fight anybody. He was almost like a child watching your parents get crazy, if you've ever had that. So I saw him kind of like walk out of the whole session in a huff and not come back. Words being thrown around, and
like what?
Like, things. I'm gonna put you in your place, and the other one say, "No, I'll put you in your place." And then
just like tough guy stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I never saw anything go down.
Right, but that's what I was told.
There was a lot of tough guy talk, and then I was like, what is, just asking myself as this crossed the line.
It's no secret that Shia describes his actions as going all the way. He takes his acting seriously, and so should you. To everyone else, he was psychotic. The source from SLAUSON Rec described how Shia would bring FKA Twigs to sessions where she would mostly sit in silence, looking at the floor.
I think probably the Twigs, the FKA Twigs and Shia case is going to be really revealing, because he was dating her while he brought her around.
So you saw her at SLAUSON Rec?
Yeah, she came a couple of times, and she always just seemed like so scared. She was always looking at the ground. She was always like very, very timid. I don't know. I don't know how you don't believe her.
The trial is set for April of 2023. Legally speaking, Shia is innocent until proven guilty. One could predict that Shia will probably be fine because, after all, he's got more millionaire lawyers than we can all deal with.
They got cameras everywhere, you dummy. I got more millionaire lawyers than you know what to do with, you stupid. I'm from it, you dummy.
After allegedly abusing his ex-girlfriend, Shia reconciled with one of the only people who truly cared for him, Mia Goth. Mia and Shia now have a daughter together, born in March of 2022. Shia's daughter may have saved him from going further down a backwards path, as Shia now aims to be completely honest and take full accountability of his actions. He doesn't care what the public thinks anymore. His family has given him a new meaning to life. Though, will that save him from losing his career? He's already lost friends and made enemies. In order to corroborate the source's legitimacy, I was presented with a contact list of over a dozen individuals who participated at SLAUSON Rec, including students, teachers, and even founders. As a result, I reached out to every single one. 3 answered, but only 2 were more than, I don't want to be involved. We also reached out to Shia LaBeouf himself, except he never got back to us. Bobby Soto advised me to do something else. Or perhaps it was just something not worth talking about. If I were to put myself in his shoes, I probably would be blindsided by the third eye of truth. Shelley goes into detail about how she believes a majority of students were taken advantage of by SLAUSON Rec leadership, more specifically, Shia. For instance, many people worked overtime and would bend over backwards while not receiving any compensation.
Volunteering copious amounts of time on his behalf, and I felt that they should be compensated.
Although the students could leave at any moment, the group lost its collective novelty after this disingenuous dynamic was established. In fact, this was the reason for her leaving the project directly after Sacred Spectacle.
I stopped being involved literally days after that thing, and I was not involved at all.
SLAUSON Rec and Sacred Spectacle exist as artifacts of the past for many students, something crystallized in amber, serving as a reminder of the weird, confusing, and for some, disheartening times. There were times when Shia would become agitated and leave, literally walk out and go home, leaving students dumbfounded.
Yeah, I mean, it's on film. I mean, it's all on film. Anything that happened there is on film. You can get in touch with Leo. I know he's making a documentary, so.
About SLAUSON Rec?
Yeah.
The filming was handled by a person named Leo, whose contact was given to me, but never responded to my inquiries. More than likely, Leo is holding the footage for a later date, indicated by his website, which states, "I have been working on a feature documentary film for 4 years now. I hope that you enjoy it and are proud of me. I hope it doesn't kill me." After all, he is sitting on a war chest of sensitive footage that is rumored to have been purchased by Amazon. Near the end of our conversation, Shelley pointed out a dystopian aspect of Shia's early life, detailing the fact that she believes he was trafficked through Hollywood.
Yeah, I felt like I was around a person who had been trafficked as a child.
Really?
Absolutely. So how much would you, when you hear about the rehab of children who were trafficked and they have to go through whatever they need to go through?
A 10-year-old boy putting the food on the table for his family while jumping from studio to studio in the hopes he'd create something worthy is not a healthy upbringing. Our anonymous source has asked me to leave you with this. In their own words, Shia says every time he does something horrible that he's hit bottom. The fact of the matter is that people, as privileged as Shia, rarely have any kind of real-world bottom. When he went on his racist tirade and hit, quote, bottom, he was offered peanut butter falcon. And before, when he was arrested for being drunk in public, he went on a talk show to make jokes about it. Much like Ezra, these aren't real-world consequences. He went on to allegedly abuse FKA Twigs, and in secret his student body, and was publicly outed and said he hit bottom in his Pasadena Beach Boys mansion, and then was offered to play the role of a literal saint, and then another role in a Coppola film. That is not the bottom of anything. I think the point I am trying to make is that these people will never experience a real-world bottom in the positions that they hold, which is why people like myself and others have to go to such great lengths to hold them accountable. So people like Shia have to start making their amends in real time and holding themselves accountable and not relying on the world catching them to coincidentally find a bottom.